Hey there, it's Leslie from Leslie's Cookies and Treats, and today I'm decorating snowman cookies. But before we get started, hey, do you know I also teach online cookie decorating classes? Join me this year and wow Santa with homemade holiday cookies. Following step-by-step video tutorials, you'll learn everything you need to know to make cute cookies just like these and have an unforgettable treat for Santa this year. Find out more details in the description. So those classes are a lot of fun, and if you want to learn more details about royal icing consistency or just have a good time and create some great cookies and have some fun memories, those classes are for you, and be sure to check them out. Anyway, I'm decorating this adorable snowman. I got the inspiration for this design from Treasure Box Designs. It's a scrapbooking paper piecing company. You should definitely check them out. And I purchased the image and I created a cookie cutter for this design. The STL file is available on my website if you want to decorate along with me. And so I started by outlining the socks and flooding them in with a really light green royal icing. My icing consistencies are all about a 15-second consistency. And I'm just going to outline the different areas and then use my scribe to settle the icing down and get it out to the points and to make sure the icing is touching all the way down to the cookie and not sitting up on top of the outline. And then I want to give these sections a chance to crust over before I pipe any sections that are right next to it. So I'm going to move on up here to the hat, and I'm just going to use my icing and slowly go around this curved outline and around the edge of the cookie, paying attention to where my icing is falling and not watching my piping bag as I'm going. And then I'll drop my line down and flood this in. If your icing consistency is not a 15-second consistency, it would be best if you didn't go all the way up to the edge and instead you used your scribe or your toothpick to move the icing around and get it out to the edge. Alternatively, you could also use a thicker icing to outline and then the thinner flood consistency for filling it in, but I like to use just one consistency, so I use a 15-second consistency. And then now I'm just going to outline and flood in his scarf, and I'm just going to use that same red icing. And once again, using my scribe, I'll poke at the icing and get it to settle down and make sure that it's touching the cookie. Then I'm going to move back down to the shoe because, again, I don't want to pipe any areas that are right next to another area until the icing has a chance to crust over. I'm going to put a good amount of icing in the shoe and then use my scribe to shape it and get it out to the edges. And then I'm going to put this cookie in my dehydrator to dry for about 10 minutes. If you don't have one, you can put it in front of a table fan. And once the icing has crusted over, I'll come back in and outline and flood in his face with my white royal icing. And again, taking my scribe and using it to settle the icing down and pop air bubbles and just shape the icing. Then I'll move on down to his body and I'll outline and flood in that entire section. And my white icing is a little bit thinner than my red icing, so I am going to use my scribe to get the icing out to the edges so it doesn't overflow the cookie. Once that's smooth, you can move on down to the shoe and pipe in the other section of red and use your scribe to settle it down. And then set your cookie back in front of the fan to dry until the icing has crusted over. Then I'm coming back in with my white icing, and it's a thicker consistency here, and I'm just going to make some little snow dribbles down his shoes. I don't want the snow to be smooth, so I'm using my thicker icing, and I'm not going to settle it down with my scribe. And then go ahead and outline and flood in the sole of the remaining shoe. Using the scribe as always to make sure the icing gets all the way down to the cookie and doesn't sit on top of the outline. And then I'm going to move back up to the hat and flood in the hat brim using my really light green icing. I want this hat to be pretty puffy, so I'm going to give it a generous amount of icing. And again, make sure that you're using icing that's at least a 15-second consistency so it doesn't flood over the edge. And then do the same thing for the ball of the hat. Skinny areas and little balls like this tend to crater, so make sure you use your scribe to pop any air bubbles and get that icing settled down all the way to the cookie. And then I'm going to move back down and pipe in the top of this shoe. I can do that even though that white icing might still be wet because that white icing is thicker. And then let's go ahead and make the snow drip on the other shoe. And then set the cookie aside to dry again until the icing has crusted over. Alright, we're back, and I'm just going to flood in the top of this other shoe over here. This little cookie is almost done. We'll just flood this section in and use our scribe to settle it down and get it down to the cookie. And then I think he just needs a nose. Give him a nice round carrot nose. It's not quite a carrot because it's round, but that's how the cookie is designed, and it's super cute this way. I just love Treasure Box designs, and it's so fun to be able to turn them into cookies. Alright, so I let my cookie dry completely, and now I'm using a red edible marker to make some stripes on his green socks. And I'm being careful to go around the edges with the stripes too, and not just across the top. And then moving back up to the hat, he needs a fuzzy hat brim, so putting a line of icing down, I'm just going to take a very slightly dampened paintbrush and tap up and down and create some fuzz. I know it's a little bit hard to see here, but if you just tap up and down with your paintbrush, you'll create a fur-like texture, and make sure that you get the edges as well. If you do get icing on your cookie where you don't want it to go, just wash off your paintbrush and then you can brush away any icing like I'm doing here. And then let's do the same thing to the ball of the cap. Just gently press up and down with your paintbrush. You might want to use a paintbrush that is a little bit beat up because this tends to ruin paintbrushes pretty quick. And if you put down too much icing and you can't make it look the way that you want it to do, just wipe some away and keep tabbing up and down until you have it the way you like it. I just think this is the cutest design ever. Anyway, in another video I made some ornament royal icing transfers, and I'll link that in the description, and I'm just going to put that on his belly here, and then we'll give him some arms so it looks like he's holding on to this ornament. So I just stuck some royal icing on the back of the ornament and then pressed it down. And now I'm just going to go ahead and pipe his arms here and his hand as if he's holding onto this ornament. Then I'll use my scribe to settle the icing down and to shape it the rest of the way and get it all the way up to the point of his shoulder up there. And then I'll turn the cookie over and do the other side. So again, I'm just going to come down and make a little arm and go over the top of the ornament so it looks like he's holding onto it, and then use my scribe to settle that down and to further shape it. And then there's just one last thing we need to do. Give him a little O for a mouth. And then this cookie is done. Again, I think these designs from Treasure Box are just the most adorable things ever. And I'll have videos for the reindeer and the Santa cookies too, so be sure to check those out. And thank you so much for watching. I hope you decorated along, and I hope you found this useful. And if so, please hit that like and subscribe button so you don't miss a single tutorial. Bye!